What's good, everybody? It's Reed and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we got a great video. We're going to be going over all things breaks, pinky break, thumb break, how to transfer breaks, how to get into breaks, and I got a lot of good stuff in this video. A lot of ways you can learn your breaks, a lot of ways you can handle your breaks. Breaks are something that is pretty easy to do but very fundamental in Magic, and I'm very excited to get into it. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, so without further ado, let's jump right in to all things breaks. So for the demonstration of a break, there's not much I can do besides showing you how you would use a break and what it can do for you. You can't really demonstrate a break on its own. So let's have a card selected, say the 2 of clubs, right? Lose it somewhere into the middle of the deck, and I can just give the deck a couple of cuts like this, maybe a few cuts like this. And just like that, the 2 jumps to the top of the deck. So let's have a card selected, say the King of Diamonds, okay? We'll lose that somewhere into the middle of the deck. And then we'll give the deck a couple of cuts. And just like that, the King of Diamonds jumps to the top of the deck. So now that you know what a break is, I'll just quickly go over it. So a break is just keeping a spot in the deck, keeping a little gap in the deck so you know where the location of a card is. So the most common type of break is to use the pinky of the deck hand and just get a little bit of the skin in there to create that gap and hold that position of the card. The reason it's so popular is because it's very much invisible from most angles. Even if you have someone standing to the side of you, these fingers can kind of act as some cover for the pinky break. So how to do a pinky break is pretty simple. All you're doing is sticking your pinky in that spot. I'm going to get into some different ways of getting into a pinky break, but the general idea of a pinky break is to just get a little bit of skin into that break. One mistake you'll see a lot is people shove way too much of their pinky inside that break, okay? And then that shows from the front, and it's just really not invisible. All you need to do is get a little bit of the pinky in at the back, just a little bit of the skin. Not even the pinky, it's just the skin. It's a little bit hard to show, but if you can see there, it's just a bit of skin, okay? And that'll allow it to be invisible from the front, and that's the ideal pinky break that you're going for. Now the other main type of break is called the thumb break. So in this case, what you're doing is you're holding that break with a little bit of skin on the thumb of the right hand if you're right-handed, so your non-deck hand. So that is how you can do breaks in each hand, okay? Both of these are very natural positions to be holding the deck. One of them is holding the deck as if you were to deal, and the other is just holding the deck from over top. Both very natural positions. With the thumb break, again, same idea. You're just sticking a little bit of fat of the thumb in that spot to mark where that card is. Very invisible from the front. The problem with the thumb break is it is visible from both sides because you don't have cover. So you just have to keep in mind that you need to keep the deck pointed straight on to your spectators, okay? And if you're good at it and you can do a small break, I mean, quick flashes of the sides, no one's really going to notice that, okay? So what are some common ways to get into a break? So when I say get into a break, I mean get the break, you know, how to obtain a break. So here are a few ways of achieving pinky breaks, okay? A very common way is called the pinky count, and you're basically riffling down cards with your pinky until that break point. Now this is good for double lifts. I kind of talked a little bit about that in my double lift video, doing a pinky count double lift. So you'd count 1, 2, and then when you're ready to do your double lift, you already have a break under the 2 cards, so it's much easier to just come and do that double lift, okay? So how that works is you're holding the deck in mechanic's grip or dealer's grip. So similar to the double lift, we're going to be applying pressure on the top of the deck with that thumb. Okay, the difference is with the double lift, when we applied pressure, we applied it near the middle of the deck to have the deck bow downwards. In this case, we want to apply pressure with the thumb on the outside of the deck, and that's going to cause the deck to bow upwards. You can see the difference here, okay? So the pressure from the thumb is going to come on this outside corner, and at the same time, you're taking that back pinky here, and you're pulling down on the deck, and that's going to help you get that deck to bow, right? If you're pulling down on one side and pushing down on the other side, you're going to get that nice bow. Okay, so that's the two main things that you're doing when you're getting ready for a pinky count. So just pull down on each corner. You can see my pinky and my thumb are each pulling down, okay? So now you have a lot of pressure in the deck. That's gonna allow the pinky to start riffling off. I don't know if you can see that, but riffling off one card at a time, okay? So you can be very accurate if you apply that nice pressure. Now that is gonna take a bit of practice, but once you get good at it, you'll be able to just come and riffle 1, 2, you know, and easily get into that double lift or whatever amount of cards you need from that pinky count, okay? Now the good thing about the pinky count is it's pretty well invisible from the front. If you keep this index finger here, you know, you get a little bit of popping up in the back corner here, you can kind of see as I'm doing it, and you might get a little bit of a flash there. The best way to counteract that is to just tilt the deck up so it's aiming at the eye line of whoever's watching. In this case, I'm aiming it right at the lens of the camera, and then that kind of hides, as you can see, that popping action in the back corner when you're getting that pinky count. Now, I honestly am not a huge fan of the pinky count. A lot of people like it, all right? The only time I would ever use it is if I was going to get a double lift where I wanted to get a break beforehand, but usually I'm just going to do a strike double lift, so really I don't use the pinky count very much. Another count I'll just go over really quickly is the thumb count. I would not recommend this. Learn the pinky count, but some people do like this because it's easier. All you're doing is, you know, taking that index finger, applying a bit of upwards pressure so the deck bows upwards, and you're pulling down on the corner with the thumb and riffling off the cards you need with the thumb. And then you have that break, which you would then kick over with the thumb onto the pinky, and then you have a pinky break. So one more time, riffle, let's say 1, 2 for a double lift, then you're just gonna squeeze the thumb in so the two cards bend up, and then when you let go with these fingers, that card will kick over, and then you can just get a pinky break right underneath it. Again, I would not recommend that. It's not very easy to hide, pretty suspicious, and a lot more movement than what needs to happen if you wanted to just do the pinky count, right? So a lot of tricks require you to get breaks under the top card. Now this is very easy to do. You could do a pinky count if you get good at it and that's what you're comfortable with, but the easiest way is to do the pushover. So I do this all the time. All you're doing is you're taking that top card with the thumb, almost like you're gonna deal it, right? But what you're doing is you're just kicking it off a little bit. So it's going to leave a little bit of a step here, and then as you pull it back on top of the deck, you can just stick your pinky in there and you have a break. It's really easy, really invisible, and all you want to do is a very small thumb movement, like literally like that. That's all you need to do. You're just pushing the card on top of the pinky and then pulling it back while leaving that pinky underneath, okay? That is the best way and the way that I recommend to get your pinky breaks if it's just under the top card, okay? Again, aim that at the eye line and do what's called killing the wrist. So killing the wrist is when you're bringing the wrist backwards a little bit. You're kind of rotating it towards you to hide the top of the deck. Usually that's the reason you do it. So if you kill the wrist a little bit and try to aim that deck right at eye line, then this push off becomes totally invisible. But it's such a minute thing that you can really do it at any point you want, and I use that all the time. So the pinky count works great for getting a break under a certain number of cards from the top, because you can count the cards as they riffle off. Now, if you want to get cards from the bottom, it's quite a bit more difficult because you don't know what your starting point is. Like, I don't know how many cards I have now, so if I wanted the bottom 4 cards, I couldn't really tell unless by feel, but that's pretty tough to do. So in that case, you can do a thumb riffle, which is done from the back of the deck like this, right? So from front, it just kind of looks like that. This is another great way, and I use this a lot because a lot of tricks that I do require me to riffle off and get a break on a certain number of cards from the bottom. So what you're doing is you're holding the deck in your dealer's grip, and these 3 fingers are coming over the front while that index can just move out of the way a little bit. This just looks like you're kind of passing the deck over. This is a very normal way to hold the deck, so it's just thumb on the back. It's slightly angled towards the left corner, and those 3 fingers on the front And usually the index finger is curled on the back. So that's exactly what you're doing here, okay? You're just coming over top and holding it like this. So this can just be done in a subtle moment where you bring your hands together, right? Doesn't look too suspicious. Then what you're doing is you're applying downwards pressure with the index and upwards pressure with the thumb so that you can bow the deck downwards and then kick off the cards that you need to from the back. I find this one quite a bit easier than the pinky count, and I think most people do. And it works really well from the bottom. I don't know too many tricks where you need a certain number of cards from the top to hold the break under, but a lot of tricks do require that from the bottom. So I do use this a lot. Now, big problem, you'll see people going like this, all right? They'll bend the deck almost in half, okay? All you want to do is like that. I don't even know if you guys can see that, but it's super small. I'm literally just lifting the deck a very tiny bit, just enough to get enough pressure. If I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, say, right? So that, again, with all these counts, it's going to come with a bit of practice and feel until you can get it perfect, so you can riffle off just one card at a time. I mean, once in a while, I'll go and I'll accidentally riffle 2 at once, but you'll feel when you do that, and then you can just readjust accordingly depending what you need to do. So again, you can hide that with a little bit of wrist kill and that eye line, but I don't even really worry about it. I just, you know, casually back up 1, 2, 3, done. You know, very slight bend in the deck. You don't want much bend. 1, 2, 3, you know, that sort of thing. So those are all great for getting into breaks from the top or the bottom, but what happens if you want to do it from a selection like I did? So the easiest way to do that, right, you have a selection, and you take that top pack and you just drop it on top of the bottom pack. You stick your fingers in there to catch it, and then you square up, pull the front fingers out, and adjust to get your pinky break. Okay? Now you want to do that quite fast. You don't want to do like this, right? Like for me, if I were to do that, it would just be as I'm quickly squaring up the cards, and that's all you want it to look like. That is the body language, and that's how you cover this. So I'll get into better ways than just dropping the deck on top at the end of the video in the other ideas section, and that's definitely how I would recommend that you do your pinky breaks from a selection. So for subtleties, there's not too many with a pinky break, same with body language. Basically, one thing I like to do is transferring the deck between hands while holding the break, right? So with that, let's say we have a pinky break right here, okay? All you're doing is transferring the pinky break to the thumb break as you pass it into the other hand. So you're coming across, you're putting 3 fingers on front, the thumb on the back, and then you just let go. And the thumb will just naturally, a little bit of skin will go in there and will hold that break for you. And then you come back and you just put it right there, and the pinky goes in. So you want to be able to do this fast and naturally, right? So you're talking, you're saying whatever you got to do, your patter, and you pass back and forth. This is a good little convincer, a good little subtlety that, you know, I'm not holding any breaks. You can see it from all these angles. It's pretty square. I'm passing it back and forth, behaving normal. So that's a great subtlety. Another thing would be if you have a table. You can actually drop the deck onto the table and maintain that break. All you need to do is kick over the top pack a tiny bit and leave a little step, okay? So what I usually do is as I'm passing the deck into my right hand, I'll kick the top pack over a little bit and hold it like this. So now I don't have a break, but you'll see I do have a little step, and then I can just come here and drop the deck like that. When you keep your eye on the deck, I know that this is my step right here, okay? Just keep your eye on it as it falls, because a couple cards might, you know, shift a little bit, but I know my step's there. Now I can keep talking, do what I gotta do. As I pick up the deck, whatever way is easier, there's not much of a method. You can use kind of the fat of the thumb to leverage that step. And so when you come underneath the grab, you can just quickly pull down at that step, and that's an easy way to just transfer that off into the pinky break, because you don't want it to look unnatural. You don't want to come here and go like, right? So I'll usually just come like this, and there, I'm back into the break. So what that would look like at full speed, have a selection, 6 of spades, right? I'm holding my pinky break, chatting, transfer it into a thumb break, back to the pinky break, make a little step, drop it on the table. I know exactly where my step is, you know, chat for a little bit, pick the deck back up, and I'm right back into my pinky break, and then I can do what I gotta do and control the 6 back to the top. One thing you want to be careful when you're dropping it on the table, if you create too big of a step and you drop it, the packets will fall off each other, and that looks very suspicious. And plus, you don't want a massive step anyway. It's literally just as you're transferring, you literally move the deck over just a tiny bit, boom, drop, and that step will stay. It's right there. In terms of body language, like I said, not too much. Just be natural, right? Don't do any funny movements. You know, be relaxed. You know, move your hands around, not too much, but enough that it looks natural. You don't want your hands like locked and stationary. That looks suspicious. You don't want to like keep the cards super close to you, or you know, only like show them the front of the deck and make it look really unnatural. Be free. Like I said, if your pinky break is small, you can totally flash this side a little bit and no one's really going to notice it if you do it quickly. With the thumb break, like I said, it's a little more open, but I'm still not too worried to just come like this while I'm talking and do a little bit of that. You're not usually holding breaks for that long anyways, but if you do, please be natural. And then another quick thing, like I kind of mentioned earlier, just make it look like you're squaring the deck whenever you want to get a break. That's the best body language cover to use. That's your justification for why you're kind of fidgeting with the deck a little bit. It's just to square that all together. All right, so time for my favorite part of these videos, the other uses and ideas. So let's start with getting a break from a selection. So I would not recommend that you just take the pack and drop it on top. It's an easy way and it's okay for beginners, but it's just not that convincing, and it seems a lot more possible to get a break from just doing that, right? What I would recommend is you doing a dribble. So when you do the dribble, you go like this, and then you get your break, and that looks a lot more convincing. So quickly, I'll just go over how to dribble. Maybe I'll teach this in another video, but it's basically that grip for the thumb count, or the thumb riffle there. And so the 3 fingers on the front, index curled up on the top with the thumb across the back. And with the thumb riffle, we had the bottom hand to keep the cards in place. With the dribble, we're basically getting rid of that bottom hand and letting the cards fall. It's going to take some practice to get the cards to come off. You basically just want to aim to get one at a time off the thumb, and that's what's going to make it look nice and smooth when you're dribbling. In terms of catching, I like this kind of straddle grip where you have the pinky to catch them at the back, these fingers for the right side and the thumb for the left side, and if you tilt the hand up a bit, then they won't fall off the front, right? So that's kind of the way you want to catch your dribbles. So what you're doing, so you have that selection, and when you dribble, you need the first few cards to fall slightly off the back of the deck. Okay, so if you see from this angle, when I dribble, let's see if I can. You saw how those first few cards fall off the back, and that leaves a big step that I can use the thumb to collect that break at. Okay, so you're doing that dribble, and you're letting the first few cards fall off the back. So what I like to do is just let the first couple of cards fall off near the back, and then let the rest fall on the front. And that kind of makes it look like a mess, which is a good thing. It makes it seem a lot harder to keep that break, but it also doesn't make it look like, oh, he's just dribbling all the cards here at the back of the deck and my card is at the front, right? So it looks very convincing to do that when I dribble. The other thing you can do is take the deck and throw it. Okay, so that's a little bit easier if you can't dribble. It does make the deck look like a mess and everything like that. All you have to do is aim so that the deck hits the bottom pack in the position where the bottom few cards are hanging off, and then what's going to happen is that bottom card will catch and the rest will slide forward, and that again will leave you with that step so you can just get your break right away. So you really can throw them from any point, you know, the back, the side, and you'll get cards sticking to your thumb and hanging off like this to get that break. You can throw them from any direction that you need, as long as they hit off the deck first so that the rest slide forward and you have that step. Collecting a step, so if you're doing the dribble idea, right, and you have this, you know you want that break at this position. All you're doing is when you're closing it, you're pulling up slightly with the thumb and you close, and look how that break just forms. And if you're doing a pinky break, it's the same idea, right? You're closing with the thumb, getting that break, and then the pinky's just sliding in, and you let go, and you have your pinky break, okay? So let's see if I can get it from this angle. Close right onto the pinky, okay? So that's how you get a break from, this would be like an in-jog, right? This is called an in-jog when a card is stuck out of the deck towards you, okay? So that's a useful method for getting breaks. Lastly, one thing I wanted to mention in the last video that I just kind of thought of is breaks are great for double lifts. Like the strike is very good if you're doing a double lift and you just need it quick and you don't have time to get a break, but it's not a bad idea to use that pinky count or use the thumb riffle or whatever your favorite method is to get a break under the top 2 cards. This will greatly help your double lifts, right? If you have the time, if it's an offbeat moment and you can get that, then you can hold it just until the moment you're ready for your double lift, and you don't even need to do anything. You can just flip so quickly. You know, I do like to do this when it's a double lift that I have the opportunity to, you know, get into that break. Sometimes I'll even come back here with this finger and do the riffling almost like a strike, but then I'll stick the pinky in and hold it for a while, talk, do what I have to do, and then I know I'm not going to miss that double lift and I'm ready to go and hit it. Not that you should be missing any double lifts after that last video. All right, that's a wrap on this video. I want to thank you guys for watching another video. Pinky breaks, all kinds of breaks, pinky counts, all that stuff is important. Find what works best for you, practice that, get great at it. All of these moves just really comes down to practice, and you know, they're not that hard. These are all kind of beginner moves. Like I said, we're going to take this one step at a time. We're going with the beginner stuff to start. So we're almost ready for our first trick tutorial. We got double lifts, we got breaks. Next, we'll probably do some easy false shuffles, or more like retention shuffles. And then we're ready for the first tricks. I'm very excited for that. If you haven't seen my double lift video, go check it out. It's a great one. And don't forget to like, please subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.